Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Patriots, gay-triots, they-triots, black-triots, brown-triots.
Fuck off!
Welcome to America's top DEI podcast. Pumps, what have you had it with?
Okay, what I've had it with, and I know I've talked about this before, but I hate it when you're driving on the highway and somebody is driving slow in the fast lane, because it's not only annoying, but because you're just treading water. You can't get behind the slow person because the fast person won't move, vice versa. So you're suspended in time, I feel like. And then I personally take it a step further and I start creating a narrative about that person. Like, this person is so stupid.
Yeah.
They don't know that you're supposed to drive fast and just pass in the fast lane unless you're going to drive fast. That tells me they're a Trumper. And I know they're a Trumper because they're stupid. And then I get mad. Like, I cannot believe that person. Then I see that they have a kid in the car and I'm like, they're generationally perpetuating Trumpism. And this is all because they're going in the slow lane. But I take it, they're going slow in the fast lane, but I take it to a whole nother level that my blood is boiling, because I just immediately now, anybody that does something that's idiotic or stupid or a lack of self-awareness, they immediately go into my Trump MAGA pile. And then I get enraged.
I think that's so relatable. And it's such an easy, right now, it's just like an easy place to deposit all of the grievances, just to blame on, just put it all in MAGA. But this whole thing about driving in the fast lane, that's an American thing.
Right.
You go to other countries and they only use the fast lane for passing and everybody's over in the right. And I've noticed that the people that do the slow driving in the fast lane, with the exception of elderly people, which I kind of give a pass on.
I do too.
Is you'll see it's a guy like in a Ford F-150.
Yes.
And they're wanting the road rage incident, because you'll be behind them, you get, 24 inches away from their bumper and they start slowing down. Then you finally get around them and they're like, with their hat. And it's just, I don't know what it is, this American machismo. I think we just have a culture that has a lot of beta males in it, and where we don't want the beta males to feel their level of beta. We've told them they're alpha. And
right.
Capitalism has offered them things that they can purchase to make them feel like they are big boys, like big trucks, big tires, nut sacks for the trucks, little eagle shirts, MAGA coated merch stuff. And then we've offered, a president that makes them feel like they're badass, when really that just, all of those things just show how beta they are, because all they do is follow what the beta herd is doing. You're
so right about capitalism gives them a way to say, hey, I'm not a beta male, I'm an alpha male.
Right.
And it's the whole, just the tires, and it's all for me. And I know I've said it a million times. It's overcompensating. You're afraid you're either small manhood or bad in the sack, because those things follow. And so then I have to talk tough. I have to talk down to women to prove how big my dick is.
Right.
And I just fucking hate it.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped.
Yeah.
That have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser, white women that may use a gay makeup artist. I really genuinely believe that if you triple trumped, then you are all about preserving the lack of culture in white America that has led us to where people go and Bible thump with their AR-15s. That's the only thing that I see when you get all white people together in the United States. There's no culture at all. So they have to go borrow culture from people. Even the word woke, they've borrowed from Black culture. I went to a Mexican restaurant with my parents, my son, my husband over the weekend. And there's just all these MAGA looking people in there. And I thought, you've got a lot of fucking nerve coming in here. Coming into this Mexican restaurant where every single waiter, obviously English was their second language, served with a smile. They run a great little local business, and Oklahoma City is a better place because of these hardworking immigrants that come in here. But I cannot imagine the horror they feel when they are driving to and from work, when they might have a hearing on their legal status. I can't imagine the people who've already been taken from their lives. Right. And to see these fat ass, pink arm, teeny weeny beta pricks with their ugly ass wives walk into this Mexican restaurant and sit down and smile and be friendly. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. Get your fat asses over to Cracker Barrel. Quit watching NBA basketball. Quit watching sports that are dominated by African Americans. Quit going to Mexican restaurants. You want white culture? You go fucking live in it. You live in it, bathe in it, go to do all the white culture stuff, get your Bible thump on, go get in the dunk tank at the mega church after you watch your mega preacher drive off in his Rolls Royce, and then go, to the shooting range and go shoot shit. But do not participate in any of the shit that makes America cool. And what makes America cool is multiculturalism. And if you want to triple Trump, and you want to browbeat DEI, and you want to browbeat gay people, and you want to browbeat black people, as you've been doing for 400 years, and you want to browbeat this generation of immigrants that come over here and open up businesses earnestly, pay their taxes. You want to demonize them and call them rapists and felons and all this shit, when the felon is the teeny weeny mushroom cock piece of shit, Cankles McTaco tits at the top of the ticket. I have fucking had it from top to bottom. White people that triple Trump should be banned, boycotted from enjoying the best thing that America has to offer, which is multiculturalism. Get your fat asses out of the Mexican restaurant. Get your fat asses over to Cracker Barrel, because nobody wants to see your fucking smug ass, teeny weeny, pink arm, big gut around. Nobody wants to see that shit. No one.
I completely agree.
Pat it.
I want to take it a step further.
Let's go.
I want the women, the triple Trumper white women.
Yeah.
If you want to be in the golden age, then I want you to give up a credit card in your name. I want you to give up the bank account in your name. And I want you to be completely beholden to a man. I don't want you to work. I want you to stay home and make cornflakes from scratch for that fucker, because that's what you're voting for. When they're talking about the golden age and make America great again, they're talking about you having less rights than men, not being able to have a credit card, not being able to own anything in your own name. So triple Trump, country club, Christian, white women, you should have to forfeit those luxuries.
I completely agree. And I think they should probably have to give a couple blowjobs a day too.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Like if your whole thing is you're going to service these men, then, they
know better.
And you're going to throw other people's kids under the bus just because of the color of their skin. And you think watching Candace Owens makes you a little bit less racist. Fuck you. And I cannot stomach what this horrible white culture is doing to the best parts of America right now. It is just unfathomable, and how smug they are and how hateful they are, and just how god-awful the architecture is in the churches that they frequent explains a lot to me. And I know I always go back to that, but there is no culture in white America except for dump truck Life Church visits and Bible studies, combined with going to the shooting range and then watching Fox News and being a piece of shit. That's what American culture has come to in white America. I personally, my life, when I'm around a bunch of just white women at a lunch, I avoid those things like the plague because it bores me to tears. There's no substance. Nobody talks about anything interesting. It's demeaning people. It's gossiping behind people's back. And I just am not that interested in that. I'm not that interested in that. But when I go out with my gay friends, when I go out with my black girlfriends that I met through my son's basketball, there's just a lot more meat on the bones. White people are dreadfully boring. And what has saved us from the lack of culture in America is our multiculturalism. And I enjoy very much experiencing Black culture, Latino culture, Asian culture, as an American, I enjoy those cultures very much because they've integrated into our culture. And because white America, especially for me, an atheist raised in the Bible Belt with all these women that just, their life goal was just to get married. I mean, no offense if that's what you want to do, but that wasn't the life for me. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to have a career. I want to have my own thoughts. I want to have my own agency. I want to have my own autonomy. And I've always wanted that. So I've always been an outlier in this place. So I have found the comfort in the people who the patriarchy has also tried to shoot down. And that's where the best meat on the bones is in America. That's where the best of the best is. The crusty country club lunches, have at them. The book clubs with white women and the Bible studies, have at it. Do your thing. Don't go to gay hairdressers. No gay florists for you. No Mexican restaurants. Get your fucking ass to Supercuts and over to Cracker Barrel. And you leave the rest of all the culture that all of this multiculturalism is built to those of us that aren't racist pieces of shit.
I think it's a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
One of your best ones.
Thank you. Welcome to I've Had It. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Angie, HBIC.
That stands for Beaver.
Beaver in charge.
Kylie,
Yes.
what do you think?
I love this idea.
What do you think? I mean, you grew up in an all-white town, Stillwater, Oklahoma. Yeah. Is there any culture there?
Besides football and God? No. If that counts as culture.
Yeah.
You know, there's a news story out there right now that there's like a whites only town on the rise.
Oh, I've seen that, like Missouri or something.
And they want to spread it. They're like, we're going to open more. And the comments, you go look, you'll see a black person say, good.
Right.
Stay in it. Build those.
Exactly.
And go live in them.
I mean, like, that is my worst nightmare. Like, some of the most misery of my adult life where I've been sitting there thinking, what are my life choices? Is when I've been with a group of, when we were younger and our kids were younger, and you end up with a group of moms.
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the conversations they're having and what's important to them. And I'm just sitting there thinking, and it's their life. Everything's relative. But I'm just sitting there thinking, these people literally have no clue. I remember we got in a conversation at your house once. This was during the Obama administration about healthcare, Obamacare. And this woman, I talk about this in our book. This woman is a huge Christian. She has a gay brother, but just, completely dismisses that fact. She's a judgmental, hateful twat. One of the biggest, most hateful twats I've ever met in my life, right? And she's all over me telling me I'm going to hell and all this shit, right? Like, this woman's an alcoholic. She's got a gay brother. Can't even for 1 second look in the mirror. But she's big, big Bible thumper. So she's making the case to me about Jesus and what a terrible person I am because I'm an atheist and all this shit. And I look at her and I go, so you're big into Jesus. Like, what about healthcare for poor people? Well, I don't think that's a right. It's a privilege. She says that to me, just as smug as fuck. That kind of white culture, I just want no part of. I want no part of that white, entitled, Christian culture. It grosses me out. I dread every minute I ever spent in circles like that. And when I do the autopsy of my adult life at this stage and I look back, it's spending time with people like that I regret. I don't regret my mistakes. I regret sharing oxygen with pieces of shit like that. I do.
Yeah, and it's pervasive. I mean, it's everywhere, and it is a mindset. It is not isolated. That philosophy or that way of thinking is not an isolated incident.
No, it's just like brazen hypocrisy on display.
Yeah.
Bragging about it.
Well, indignant.
Yeah.
Just, I get to have it because I'm privileged. Uh-huh. I'm chosen. And I'm better than other people.
You see, especially in places like Oklahoma, it's such a void of culture. And almost people brag about it.
Oh, like, no, they do brag about it.
Yeah, the lack of culture. Like, well, we're just down to earth, good people. We like our suppers, our football team, our God, and our guns.
Our guns. Yep.
Guns,
it's just God and church.
It's gross.
Gross.
But you know what? If that's what they want to do, I'm with the people. If they want to have an all white thing, I think it's dangerous. I think it's fucked up. But at least where not to go.
Right. I don't ever want to go there.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. And who would want to be around those miserable fucking people anyway?
Probably 77 million people.
Yeah. Touche.
Okay, I've got some reviews for you today. This one is for Meemaw. It says, Meemaw, was that you? And Kathy says, I recently participated in a 10K and could have sworn I saw Meemaw racing alongside me. What made me think it was America's greatest legal mind? The racer was puffing on their vape while running a 10K, of course. Maybe it was you, maybe it wasn't. Either way, I love the pod. You keep this Les Triet sane in Trump's godforsaken America.
First of all, I'm so flattered that she thought I could run a 10K, which I don't think I could even walk a 10K. And the vaping, it's a woman after my own heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the vaping is, I think you're a bigger vapor than you were a smoker, and you were 3 packs a day Marlboro Lights.
I completely agree because I can do it inside.
Yeah.
I can do it. It's in my bed asleep. I have one in bed, and if I lose it, there's one next to me that I can grab.
Yeah.
No, it's way
It reminds
worse.
me of your youngest Luke when he was 3.
With his passies.
Yeah. So Angie's her youngest son, his name is Luke. He's a doll. He just had a birthday. So happy birthday, Luke. And he was so obsessed with his pacifiers when he was little. He would have one in one hand, one in the other, and one in his mouth. And he could like juggle them in and out. And I would just, to fuck with him, because when you're a young mom, you're bored to tears. You're at home all the time with the kids. I would get a bowl and I would put all of his passies. There'd be like 12, and I'd put it right in front of him, like a bowl of chips. And Andrew'd be like, "You're such a bitch." And I'd be like, "I know, but let's just see what he does." I mean, he made sure he rotated them all in and out. That's you with the vapes.
Yeah. No, it's an oral fixation for sure. Also, what he did when I'd say, "Luke, you can't take your passy in here," he would take it in his hand and go, suck it, and then put it down. Like take a bunch of big sucks off of it.
Yeah, it was like,
which is what I do. If I know I'm going where I can, I'm like,
yeah, you have toddler-like instincts with your vaping.
100%. I can't defend it.
You love it. You love it so much.
I do.
Okay, Kylie, any more?
I've got one more 5-star review titled, How Did I Live Without You? And D. Matt Taylor says, as a podcast obsessive, I don't blow smoke, but this pod has to be the best. I listen to them all, but this is the most refreshing, honest, engaging, joyful, real, rattling content I need in my life every day. Thank you for stepping up and speaking up when our world is in disarray. I love you both so much. Please never stop bringing truth to the world.
How nice.
That's so nice.
What a great review. 2 great reviews today.
2 great reviews. I mean, we'll be due for some negative ones, I'm sure. Okay, Pumps, I wanted to share this with you. I don't know if you've heard about it or not yet. There is an app called T that lets women anonymously review guys, and it has soared to #1 in the App Store. A new app called TEA, has gained rapid traction as a women-only platform for anonymously reviewing men based on dating experiences. The app was inspired by what the creator described as his mother's experience being catfished and unknowingly dating men with criminal records.
Wow, I think this is a fabulous idea.
It's triggered a backlash, particularly from men who say it promotes unverified allegations and causes reputational harm. Some have threatened legal action, citing concerns over privacy and defamation. The platform also suffered a data breach on July 25th, with personal information reportedly leaked on 4chan, according to 404 Media. So, in theory, when you think back to being young and dating, and it's not spoken about a whole lot, but when I think back to how horny men and how diabolical they can be to get laid, when you think back to being like in your 20s, and how they can put on this charm offensive and tell you everything that you want to hear. And so then you start sleeping with him. And then you find out he's got like 3 or 4 other side pieces.
Right.
And then you're like, what the fuck? He is such a piece of shit. And he perfectly like made himself your, perfect prince in your stupid, young, naive world you're thinking of. So in that regard, I can think about us, younger, and going, oh my God, this guy, spilling the tea on the app. But I can also see somebody getting a guy that's probably about maybe a C plus B minus morally. Okay. He's not that great, but he's slightly above average, but he really broke your heart and you want to make sure nobody else dates him. I could also see a group of girls talking into, let's just rip him on the tee.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hell hath no fury.
Yeah. No, if everybody did it in good faith, I think it's a great app. But
right.
And I'm not saying if I were dating and I did that, I'm not saying I wouldn't fall prey to not being in good faith. But I do think it's a really powerful tool because men are such liars. You know, they also have that, are we dating the same guy kind of thing, where you post the picture and it's supposed to be just women. And, you know, and I personally have not been on it, but people have showed me like, oh yeah, 3 people were dating. He said he was single. He was married, like all the things. Because I think men have had the advantage for so long that they get the benefit of the doubt. And so I think it's good that women have this, but I do see that it could be taken too far. And I personally could take it too far.
Well, and I'm thinking about like not where we are right now, but think about like you're about 24 to 27.
100%.
Okay, and your whole social life is like, okay, we're going out. And it was before social media for us. You go out, you go to bars, and it's all about mating rituals. Like, I mean, that's just your number one go-to. Well, that's what these people, this generation is doing. And their mating rituals, bizarrely, a lot of them are happening online through these apps. And I could see a girlfriend, if I'm really honest, we're drunk, maybe smoking a little weed.
Yes.
And she's like, and this motherfucker, he fucked me, and then he left my apartment, and then he went and fucked her, and then he came back and crawled in bed with me, passed the joint around, you take another shot, and it's like, let's fucking light his ass up. Now, here's the thing, is promiscuity, being promiscuous, is that for a 20-something-year-old male, is that worthy of complete reputational annihilation online? That's the question I get to, because I think that there is always still this double standard where women are slut-shamed and men are cheerleaded by how many partners they have. But ideally, I think in your 20s, it's the time to kind of go out and just fuck around.
Agree.
I think it's the time to go out and have casual sex, have serious sex, kind of figure out who you are sexually. I'm sure like there's some Bible thumpers that hate listening to us right now that are just dying. But genuinely, I think that's what the 20s are for. Learning, you know, always under the parameters of consent and safety. But that's what you should do. So I wonder if, like, let's say we have 4 sons between us. Let's say one of our sons goes through a slut period.
Yeah.
You know, and then he's just eviscerated reputationally online. Then do these men become more risk adverse to dating? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so many problems that I don't know how to solve because I just don't have any experience with it. And I'm past the time in my life. But I know in my 20s, I would have abused that kind of a site.
I do too.
There's just no question.
I just 100%, I can see you and I. Like if you date, like, okay, let's just, for example, you know, you recently had an affair with a married man. Unbeknownst to you, you didn't know he was married.
Right.
But let's take that back a couple of decades when we used to go to Mexico and sit around and smoke weed and drink champagne. All right. All day long. That's what we did on these trips. And you found out at that age when hormones are higher, I could totally see us just fucking body slamming this guy on one of those apps. And he would have deserved it.
That's what I was going to say. And then you have the deserved body slams online. The people that do misbehave so badly.
But also like...
It's just such a fine line. And who gets to make that decision?
But here's the moral question. Outside of overt like sexual abuse and emotional abuse, is the guy that lied to you, took you on some dates, is that the internet's business?
I would say no, but I think that's an age thing.
Because I think, as much as I hate infidelity, as much as a skunk as I think that guy is, I don't think he is an emotional abuser or physical abuser or any of those things. He's broken and he can't keep his dick in his pants. There's no question about that, but welcome to the human species.
Right.
So I guess that's my question about this whole thing is, people are flawed and people cheat and do these things, but is it worth having this paper trail? I just don't know.
Yeah, I cannot. I see how it could be good, how it could be useful, how it could spare someone. Like if somebody gets on there and they're like, oh yeah, that happened to her. I'm kind of seeing these characteristics, you know, like controlling. His ex-girlfriend said he's super controlling. Pretty soon he's in your bank account. That's abuse to me. That deserves to be, that is a warning flag.
Yeah.
But then you just get into, is anything private anymore? And then who's the judge? Who determines what is appropriate to be called out online and what isn't?
I know who the judge can be. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Princess
dun, dun,
Diana?
dun. Judge Judy Diana.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of would get so juicy over that.
I don't know. I was kind of, this is one of those stories when it came out. I at first was like, oh, good, women get them. But then as a mother of 2 sons and a woman who's been scorned before.
Yeah.
And
have scorned.
Totally. But both ways.
Yeah.
I mean, being realistic about it, I just started thinking, is that, I don't know. Kylie, what's your take on that?
I was a young person on the internet. What do you think?
I'm kind of not into it. So, I think it's dangerous. I think it's kind of bad for all of that to be out there. The concept of social credit, about that. China does this. There's a Black Mirror episode on this where a credit score, but it's you as a human online.
It's like your Uber rating.
Yes. And I just think that's very dangerous. I think someone is evil to everyone in a breakup. It doesn't mean that they're evil. They're going to be evil to you. So I think it's dangerous. But I will say, Pumps has gotten my Facebook account. I gave her the password and she added me to all of the Are We Dating the Same Guy Facebook groups.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to get in it.
I creep in them and it's actually very fun to watch. And they do catch a married person. They catch a sexual predator. But there's a lot of shit on there that should not be on there. And it makes me kind of feel bad for some of the guys.
That's the thing. At what cost? I mean, obviously we have, there are predators, and I remember being a young woman and falling prey to bullshit from men. And I'm sure I bullshitted,
Of course.
But I don't know. I just am so grateful that when we were younger, I didn't have to navigate adolescence and young adulthood with a smartphone.
Same, totally same. It's just
because
one
this
more
generation is becoming so risk adverse, and I certainly understand why. Because now, if this app, the T is out there, then let's say you this girl's super hot. She's hot, and great in the sack. One of our boys dates her, but then psycho stuff starts. And then they're reluctant to break up because she's like, I'm going to put you on the T.
Yes. It can become emotional blackmail.
And vice versa. I mean, I think it can go both ways. Generally speaking, I think men's are more skunky than women when it comes to dating, just from my personal experience. But I mean, I've known some real psychos, and I'm sure I've been psycho a few times.
I know I've been psycho a few times, but in my experience, men act worse
What
than
about
women.
that time you showed up to the strip club?
Yeah, that was psycho.
Why don't you share that with the listener?
Okay, so this was before I got married, which really tells you how sick and fucked up I was.
Are you engaged to him at this time, or living together?
I don't think we're engaged or living together. Okay. No, wait, that's a lie. We were living together, but we were not engaged. We were supposed to go to dinner with my mom. He said he had to go do a depot in Tulsa. Fine. So that was before tracking on the phone. And he called someone else in my law firm to meet for drinks at a strip bar, but he told me he was going to be late from Tulsa for me to go to dinner just to go ahead and go to dinner. So being a fucking nut that I am, I take my car and I go straight to the strip bar and I park right in front. And there was a camera, which was unusual in those days. I mean, this is 30 years ago. So this was unusual.
Ages ago.
And so there's a camera looking down on who's getting in, and they won't let me in. And then I start going into all this, it's a free country, you can't keep me out, just making the biggest horse's ass of myself. So he's sitting in the strip bar watching this on the black and white, and he comes out. It was a huge fight. I let him go to sleep that night, and then I poured a big bucket of ice cold water on him while I was asleep. What I should have done is pack my shit and left and said, peace out. But I didn't do that. That's what I should have done. But yeah.
Which is why I think you and I could teach a seminar on who not to marry.
Who not to marry, how to not pick a husband.
Yeah. And
forks in the road. If we took fork to the right, then you absolutely need to take the fork to the left.
Yeah, I agree. All right, listen up. We have a guest today on this podcast. But before I introduce her, I do want to tell everybody that you still have time to get the summer's hottest reading book there is on the planet. It's written by none other than Judge Judy Diana, the head beaver in charge of the entire United States of America, and me. It's just a great little summer read. And so we're going to keep promoting it until you guys continue to buy this book, because we've got to get these copies sold, Pumps.
That's right. We can't have boxes and boxes when we die.
All right. So today we have a guest. Her name is Sami Sage. We have been on her account. She is the founder of Betches Media and Betches News, the host of award-winning daily morning announcement podcast, the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Democracy in Retrograde, How to Make Changes Big and Small in Our Country and Our Lives. Let's welcome to I've Had It, Sami Sage. Pumps and I need to share with everybody that we have written a book. It's called Life is a Lazy Susan of Shit Sandwiches. And believe it or not, Pumps and I have not always been so rock solid. And we talk about all of our trials, tribulations, most of all our fuck ups. Yes, because fuck ups are relatable and a part of the human experience.
I have gotten so much feedback regarding the book that because of my situation with the religion and addiction and all that people relate to that. So I do think there's something to take away that's comforting about it, because we've all been in very difficult situations.
And listener, what we want you to do, this is the it book for summer reading. So please get your copy of Life is a Lazy Susan of Shit Sandwiches and take a picture of yourself with the book in really great places and tag at I've Had It podcast, and we will share your images with our summer it book. You can buy it in bookstores. You can buy it in the link in our bio. You can buy it at Target, Walmart, Amazon, etc. All the retailers. Happy reading and happy summer.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. You guys, it is so hard to find mental health advice online because there's so much on there. It's hard to distinguish what's good, what's not. How does it affect my decision making when I read this on one site and this on the other? So it feels like there's advice for everything: cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what actually works for you? I'll tell you what works. Trusted resources and talking to live therapists can get you personalized recommendations and help you break through the noise. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works, with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on an over 1.7 million client reviews. It's convenient too. You can join a session with the therapist at the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. And you can switch therapists at any time with no charge. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off the first month at betterhelp.com/hadit. That's better, HELP.com/hadit.
I'm so done with people acting like low sex drive is just a part of aging. Like, oh, you're in your 40s. What did you expect? I expected to still want sex. Thanks.
Exactly. And that's why there's Addie. It's the first FDA-approved little pink pill for certain premenopausal women who are bothered by a low sex drive.
Addie helps bring back your libido. It helps you feel like yourself again.
Yes, it's real, it's researched, and it's not just part of getting older. It's something you can treat. Go to Addie.com to learn more. ADDYI.com.
Addie, or flibanserin, is for premenopausal women with acquired generalized hypoactive sexual desire disorder, HSDD, who have not had problems with low sexual desire in the past, who have had low sexual desire no matter the type of sexual activity, the situation, or the sexual partner. This low sexual desire is troubling to them and is not due to a medical or mental health problem, problems in the relationship, or medicine or other drug use. Addie is not for use in children, men, or to enhance sexual performance. Your risk of severe low blood pressure and fainting is increased if you drink 1 to 2 standard alcoholic drinks close in time to your Addie dose. Wait at least 2 hours after drinking before taking Addie at bedtime. This risk increases if you take certain prescriptions, OTC or herbal medications, or have liver problems, and can happen when you take Addie without alcohol or other medicines. Do not take if you are allergic to any of Addie's ingredients. Allergic reaction may include hives, itching, or trouble breathing. Sometimes serious sleepiness can occur. Common side effects include dizziness, nausea, tiredness, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, and dry mouth. See full PI and medication guide, including boxed warning, at addie.com/PI. Addie.
ADDYI.com. Sage.com.
All right. I think she's joined us. Let's welcome Sami Sage, our friend, to I've Had It podcast. Sami, welcome to I've Had It. We're so happy to have you on.
Hi, I am thrilled to be here. I love you guys. And I can't wait to tell you what I've had it with.
Ooh, could dive right into it. What have you had it with?
Dive right in. Text messaging scams.
I had one this morning.
Do you get these a lot? Like,
the
I am
time.
just so sick of hearing that my package has been, delayed, or hearing that I have a ticket that I'm going to be arrested for not paying, or, and I just have to tell you what happened. A few weeks ago, I actually got texted by one of the scammers. He must have been new at the Scam Factory or something, because he accidentally made a text chain with a bunch of other people. So we were all like on it, and people were writing back like, "Oh, you fucked up," like, "Why are we all on here?" So it was, honestly, I'm just tired of getting texts from, and having like half of them be from not people that I know.
It's really picked up lately, and I've gotten a lot of scam phone calls lately, like spam or whatever. It's just like it's picked up like 3 and 4 and 5 a day now.
You know what it is? Trump's America. I mean, they're just beholden, these spammers and these scammers. And we blame everything, every little thing that happens in our personal lives, or in a larger scale to the country, everything. We're like, thanks, Trump.
Yeah.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, he's basically made white collar crime not a real thing anymore. But I do have to say, I get a fair amount of these texts from Democratic organizations asking for money. So I don't know. I think it is Trump's America. It's this obsession with money and exploiting people and degrading their experience of life at any cost, because it costs nothing for them. And for us, it really costs a lot.
Totally. Okay. I want to talk to you about something that I think is super important. And I think that you're a good messenger to help navigate through this. So it's the whole Israel-Palestine issue. And when you're like us and you live in red state, middle America, you don't really have a whole lot of diversity in your city. You don't really kind of know what the whole thing's about. And what I'm telling you right now, millions of American, even Democrats, don't really know what the whole thing is about. And then you start seeing these images coming out of Palestine. And then you see Benjamin Netanyahu, who just seems to be like a fascist, right-wing, unlikable, smarter version of Donald Trump. But then you're scared to speak about it because I have Jewish friends. You're Jewish. You're scared to speak about it because you feel like then everybody's going to be like, you're an anti-Semite. And so it feels like everybody's just kind of like stuck and silenced about being able to speak about it. And then I see this Zoran Mamdani, who like, oh my God, here's the answer to all of our problems as Democrats right now. This is what we need to do. We need to go left. We need an economic populist message. The whole party is going to get behind him. And then you see Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries lollygag around, and they won't even endorse him. And so I just want to, number one, as a Jewish, liberal, progressive person, what is your take on all of this? And what can you tell people? And this is something the left is going to have to realize. A lot of people, Americans, are ethnocentric. A lot of people don't give a shit about it. I do when I see that suffering, but a lot of Americans that live in flyover states are just kind of like, we have starvation here too. And I don't like that, but that is the way we were raised, ethnocentric Americans.
So you asked a lot of questions. I'm going to try to answer them all. And please interrupt me because I think there's a lot of pieces to this conversation that have become connected, even though they are not necessarily connected. And I think that first thing, you've identified like a complete problem, a completely clear problem that I think a lot of people are experiencing. And that's how, I perceive that as being the landscape that's out there. I want to say I can't really speak for all Jewish people. And I think that that's actually one of the problems. Like you said, like most people don't really know what's going on in the Middle East. Most people don't really know many Jewish people at all. They know them by stereotypes. I will say that I am sort of myself kind of a walking, talking Jewish stereotype. And I don't want to say, I don't want to say that because I don't know what people are thinking when they say that. But in terms of like the old school, work in media and come from, Long Island and went to summer camp, and my family, my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, were in Auschwitz. They actually met in a displaced persons camp. And it's, I sort of have that sort of, average, Jewish suburban New York secular upbringing. But I have an interesting experience. And then I actually moved to Israel for almost a year when I was 24. And in that experience, I saw a lot of what, the roots of some of the roots of what's happening now there. And I think a lot of people would assume, I would come out of that experience and be like, like, you don't understand what it's like to live in Israel. And like, that is true. I think it's a very different environment. But I think if anything, it gave me more texture for both sides. And it didn't really make me feel like, I'm in the tank for like one perspective or the other. I think that what we have there is like a very unique and nuanced human problem. And I think people want to sort of say, there's no nuance, it's not complicated. And I'm not talking about like what's happening now. I'm talking about the entire conflict. And I'm guessing that growing up in where you did around a lot of evangelicals, you probably seen a very particular perspective on Jewish people and on Israel. And it's seen through the eyes of evangelicals, which in my view, kind of just like want us all to get there so that they can kill us and have their end times fantasy.
This is one of the times I'm going to jump in. Here's the evangelical mindset that we grew up around. There's very quick to make Jew jokes, white evangelicals. They're very quick to be anti-Semitic, but also in the same sentence, it's, but our Lord and personal Savior was a Jew, and the Jews need to be in Israel for him to return, which I think is a very anti-Semitic, dismissive, lack of acknowledging people's agency and autonomy. But I mean, here's the thing, Sami. I'm an atheist, so when I start hearing people talk about magical thinking, whether it's the Jews saying they're chosen people and they're supposed to be in Israel, honestly, I think that's kind of fucking crazy. When I hear, and I know that a bunch of Jews would be like, oh my God, Jennifer Welch is an anti-Semite, but I'm an atheist. So I think foreign policy based on magical thinking is stupid and dangerous. I've never been indoctrinated into any religion. When I hear evangelicals talk about rapture prepping and the Jews being in Israel, I think that's dangerous. I think when we base foreign policy on magical thinking, it harms people, and it places a hierarchy of who's better and who's worse and whose lives are more valuable and whose lives are less valuable. And religion categorizes us. And that's what I see at the epicenter of a lot of this conflict right now.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that part of the problem is that Israel became politicized. And a lot of that was really due to Netanyahu wanting to kind of play these games where it was like, Israel wasn't a question of national security or policy or, an economic question or like a democratic human rights type of question. It became about a political pawn that they used as a cudgel against Obama and playing, and, this like politicization of, the Iran deal. But I want to get back to a few things about, talking about the religion. So I have an interesting feeling about religion because having been immersed in it, I really feel a strong separation between organized religion and religious practice and spirituality. And I think that spirituality is something that can cross all religions. And I think that the kind of core tenet of it is what ultimately has drawn people to religions in the first place, but it ends up getting corrupted by people who want to give it structure and turn it into essentially like a high control group
And a business.
And a business, of course.
Yeah, where we are, we have major church
right.
businesses. Yeah.
Right, of course. And boycott mega churches where, but I think that that's an exploitation of like a natural human yearning to feel a part of something maybe that you can't see, or like a higher purpose. And I think that that's something that could really only happen in someone's like own mind and own home and their own family. And that's why you see so many people like posturing. And I think that's why like organized religion sort of incentivizes that by making it so external rather than about like the quiet sort of thing that like, how do you treat other people? At the bottom of every religion, they'll all say, oh, the most important thing is like the golden rule, like treat people as you want to be treated. Don't treat people as you don't want to be treated. Every religion sort of has that and says that that's like their core, but they don't actually do that because that's not what's rewarded in religious communities.
So what I want to jump into right now is, as you spoke about, like, Jewish people are not a monolith, and you see protests, some in Israel, where people are, not in our name, and they don't want this war to go on. But you see that this Netanyahu has really, the only bipartisan stuff that I see in the United States Senate and Congress right now is support of Israel. Mm-hmm. And I see how beholden the politicians that I want to have moral clarity, like a Cory Booker or Hakeem Jeffries, how they don't fucking have it. So everything that comes out of their mouth, Sami, everything, I just think is bullshit. I think when Cory Booker goes off about immigrant children getting deported, but he votes to send bombs to Israel, to a maniac, Benjamin Netanyahu, I just think it's so morally depraved. But again, it's a really difficult thing to tiptoe and walk in because everybody feels like they're on eggshells, that your Jewish friends are going to say you're anti-Semitic. It's like, I'm not. I know how daunting it must have been to grow up with the trauma of the Holocaust. I've been to Dachau. I've studied this. When I was in London and I saw Cabaret, when the guy took off his jacket and it showed that he had a swastika on his arm, still to this day, and I'm not Jewish, I was like, oh, like just seeing the swastika just made me go. But then I think this, Sami, how are the people that this happened to, how are these people doing this to Palestinians? And everybody dicks over the Palestinians. I was researching it, and it's like Arab countries dick them over, Israel dicks them over, the United States dicks them over. Nobody fights for the Palestinians. And that's who I want to fight for. This progressive atheist woman, I want to fight for the most marginalized. That's who I want to choose. If we talk about chosen, that's who I want to choose to help. Are those people. And I have no spiritual life at all, but I feel a moral calling that those are the people that need us the most.
I mean, I completely agree with you. I think that the problem is that this has become a politicized and weaponized thing. There are a lot of dynamics as to right now, the Palestinians have been exploited and have been pawns for, I would say, at least 15 years since 20 years since Hamas came into power there. They have been basically used as a pawn between Netanyahu and Iran. And because Netanyahu has essentially enabled them to stay there because he doesn't want to allow the Palestinian Authority. He doesn't want the West Bank and Gaza to be able to create a Palestinian state. That came after years of kind of like, oh, will we try to do a two-state solution? But that's where it really broke down. And that's where the Second Intifada and, there was this degradation within Israeli society, and both became radicalized. And I think what happened on October 7th was that people in Israel became so fearful. Like the level of that attack on everywhere made people just feel like their safety was not where they thought it was. And it just, I think, really radicalized people. And I think that Netanyahu took advantage of that. Not only that, there were warnings. There were many warnings that this was going to happen.
Yes,
and people in Israel say like, oh, he's the defender. But what I always say to them is like, okay, well then if this person is your defender, how did they let this happen when it wasn't even really a surprise? And, maybe the day was a surprise, but they knew that they were planning this scale of attack and it was ignored. And I think what you're looking at is sort of just a very classic situation of really bad actors who don't give one shit about the people under their subjugation at this point.
It reminds me of Dick Cheney using 9/11 to go into Iraq. I mean, it's the same thing. Once you get the public scared and think that this is in the interest of national security and safety, then you can lie to them. And then you can go commit war crimes, which the United States did in Iraq. I mean, it's just a complete stain on our country. But it reminds me of that.
My feeling on this, and this is kind of what I say to the people in my life who are more hawkish. How can you get rid of Hamas? You can just make more. Like you just make more people. It's an ideology that you cannot stamp out, and they will even acknowledge this because it aligns with their like biblical ideology that you can't totally get rid of anti-Semitism. That there will always be people who hate Jews. And I kind of think that's true, but I do think that there are ways for people's opinions to change. And I also think there are social structures within a society. I think in a small L liberal, small D democratic society, that's where Jews are able to thrive because that's where you have freedom of religion. And I think what happened in Israel is that you have like an increasingly autocratic society. And Hamas, there are even records that Hamas decided to attack on October 7th because of the division, because Bibi had tried to create these judicial reforms so that he could stay in office. So he, in his trying to make Israel more anti-democratic, so that he could stay out of jail for taking bribes, which seems so quaint at this point. Right. It's like, no, literally, it's like cigars and chocolates and like in exchange for like favorable media coverage. It's so like 2018. It's so he is trying to, and Israeli politics are deeply, deeply dysfunctional. He was trying to stay out of he was trying to stay out of prison and not be tried. And because of that, because he was threatening to make these constitutional reforms, you had so many protests. People were the most against him they've ever been. And you had people threatening to not go to the military. Everyone in Israel has to enroll in the military or in some sort of like state service, or they get an exemption if they're studying in yeshiva, which is actually the wedge issue that might threaten to collapse Bibi's coalition in the end, if that's even possible. But yeah, you have really just someone who is not acting in the best interests of Israelis. And I think if you look at what like Mandy Patinkin said, he's kind of saying, and I'm really not on the, I'm not trying to be on the road of like blaming Jews for anti-Semitism. In fact, I think people like really don't listen to Jews when we try to explain what anti-Semitism is. Probably because people are so sick of being accused of being anti-Semitic when they really don't necessarily know the intricacies of it. But yeah, I think what this is a situation where bad actors are getting cover are basically just getting cover from the situation. And
don't you think that the behavior of the Israeli government right now is the biggest growing factor of anti-Semitism? I mean, because I
don't see how you could point to anything else.
Right.
And many will, I don't want to get into like the victim blaming of it all, because I think that that's sort of like, I don't think
in this instance, they're the Israeli government is not the victim. They are propagandists, liars, perpetrators, murderers. They're starving people, even their own hostages. Or when you starve the population, then you're starving these hostages that you claim to want back. And at the end of the day, you speak about a lot of the things because you're a Jewish American and you've had this experience that you said is a typical of a Jewish American. What I have to say is, and this is probably painful for Jewish Americans to hear, but why should the American taxpayer care so much about Israel? Like when I drive to rural towns in Oklahoma and I see the living conditions, and now I know that their hospitals are getting closed. And then I think that, okay, in Israel, they have healthcare. You're able to access all sorts of government assistance if you're a Jewish person, you want a safe place to live. I'm sure a lot of African Americans would love such an opportunity after years and years and years of oppression by white, patriarchal, crusty old men in this country. What a gift, what a privilege it would be to have all of these politicians create a safe space for Black Americans. We recently had a kid that worked for us that was shot. And if we're talking about making safe spaces and taxpayers are funding them, why is the Israeli issue more, higher up than everybody else's needs? And so I read that they think they're chosen by God, which brings me back to this can't be a foreign policy. We can't base foreign policy and taxpayer money on magical thinking. Like as a person who's completely secular and y'all, you talk about spirituality and all that, great, swing for the fences. Yeah. When it comes to policy and making decisions that affect people's lives, I think it has to be absolutely secular. And I think magical thinking is so incredibly dangerous.
First I would argue that one of the reasons Israel is so top of mind is less because of the Jews and more because of the evangelicals.
I agree. And that's fair.
Of course there is like a strong Israel lobby, but there's also a strong Saudi Arabia lobby and Qatar lobby. And I think there's we can talk about that. Okay. First thing, the chosen people. That is a bastardization that I think even Jews sort of have misunderstood. Chosen in the context of Judaism means chosen to follow the Torah. It's like that. It's not like, oh, you're this special people. It's like you were given the Torah and you're supposed to follow it. It's actually kind of like a hassle if you think about it. It's like, it's not like this. It's not supposed to be like we're special. But again, these things get sort of bastardized through secularization and just the fact that people don't really know that much about.
It's true.
Yeah. To your point about why is Israel so important? The point you're making is really no different than the point I think people make about why are we funding Ukraine? The difference is that Netanyahu is not acting quite as the profile and courage that Vladimir Zelensky has acted as. And that I think that wasn't always the case with the American-Israel alliance. And to your point about, how people have a place to go in Israel, I would argue America should be making reparations of some sort to Black people. Whether or not it's payments, there should be why aren't there sort of tax breaks or student loan repayments, perhaps?
I think I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Racism.
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. I think that the evangelical support has been in America. It's because America is kind of a Christian nation.
Totally.
That the Jews are a good, they need us for their own reasons. But
for the rapture.
I agree with you that there should be separation of church and state. That should not come into play here. But at the end of the day, what has all of this achieved for the Palestinians, for Jewish people who feel really unsafe in America? And I think I can maybe explain that a little bit better so that you maybe don't feel maybe people will be a little bit more understanding of how, why Jews feel everything is so anti-Semitic. And I think sometimes people like overplay it. Like, I know there are people who would think that your point of view is anti-Semitic. I really don't believe that. I don't feel that you are. Like, I know that you're like, you just want everyone to feel, well, fair, everyone to live free, be able to practice their religion and not have another's imposed on them, and also not be killed.
I think that the situation is, the way I see it, as somebody who's in the middle of the country and have conversations with other liberals / progressives in my state that are not, maybe raised Christian light, not evangelical, secular, is number one, it seems to hold the Democratic Party hostage. And if you live in a state like Oklahoma and there's a total abortion ban, and you have you're ranked 50th in education, you have all these issues, right? And you're not religious at all. And then you start like just hearing you talking about Zionists, not Zionists, the Holy Land. I'm just like, who gives a shit? And I know people are like, oh my God, you're Jewish. I'm not. Like, and like the fact that we would base foreign policy off of God telling a group of people that you get to have this piece of land, I'm sorry, I think that's crazy. But I'm an equal opportunity critic of all of this. I think Sharia law is crazy. I think Christian nationalism is crazy. I think anytime we integrate religion into decision making, particularly when militaries are involved in that, it's reckless and dangerous. And I think it's Iron Age thinking in a modern world. Now, as a secular person, I always hear people that have to somehow pretzel themselves back to Iron Age thinking in books that were written 2,000 or 4,000 years ago. And
I think they're more explaining why people do believe this. And your point is the real one. I don't really understand why we're making foreign policy based on that either. The issue is that our government is corrupted by religious nationalist interests overall. And it's not a Democrat or a Republican problem. It is it's like an oligarchic problem. It's like this set of people who are influential and wealthy and get to make decisions on a transnational level. These are the interests that we're kind of stuck with. And, do any of these people give a shit about like the starving Gazans? No, they don't. They use them as pawns. Yeah. They use them as like, to engagement farm and to like polarize people and to stir up hatred. It's like, it doesn't help. And they definitely don't care about the Jews that they claim to care about.
Listener, if you're paying rent every month without earning anything in return, let me introduce you to Built, the rewards program designed for renters who want to earn something for their largest monthly expense. Let me explain. By paying rent through Built, you can earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, or your next Lyft ride, and more. But it doesn't stop there. Built is about making your entire neighborhood more rewarding. You can dine out at your favorite local restaurants and earn additional points. Get VIP treatment at certain fitness studios and enjoy exclusive experiences just for Built members every month. Built is turning a monthly expense into an opportunity to earn rewards and discover the best that your neighborhood has to offer. Your rent is finally going to be working for you. Earn points on rent and around your neighborhood wherever you call home by going to joinbuilt.com/hadit. That's joinbilt.com/hadit. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Finding great candidates to hire is like trying to find a needle in the haystack. You get so many resumes and not enough candidates have the right skills or experience, but not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. ZipRecruiter's smart technology identifies top talent for your roles quickly. Immediately after you post your job, ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology starts showing you qualified people for it. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find you what you're looking for, that needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/hadit. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/hadit. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. As my children are growing older, they're becoming more susceptible to fragrance in the products they use on their skin. And that is why I have been now diving in to what are the chemicals in the products that I use. And I am finding that so many chemicals are in there that are unnecessary. I was shocked that my laundry detergent is one of the worst culprits. So I switched to Earth Breeze. Their detergent sheets are free from harsh chemicals like dyes, parabens, phosphates, and preservatives. And they're way easier to use. No heavy plastic jugs, no mess, just a pre-measured sheet that dissolves in seconds. I feel so much better knowing I'm not exposing myself and my kids to those unnecessary toxins. And my laundry still comes out fresh and clean. If you want a gentler clean without harsh chemicals, switch to Earth Breeze. They're also backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. So basically, you are trying it risk-free. Right now, you can get 40% off with your subscription at earthbreeze.com/hadit. That's earthbreeze.com/hadit.
I feel like a lot of people are pawns, and the thought that like you would feel unsafe as a Jewish person in America. That,
I'll tell you,
or if it's you or any Jew, I hate that. Like I, as a progressive person that has empathy, that triggers me and makes me every bit as sad as much as my Black mom friend who had to tell her son when he walked down the street not to have his hoodie on over his head, that her son felt that unsafe. So anybody not feeling safe because of their skin color or because of their religion is something as a progressive I want to advocate against. But that same empathy, the same thought track that I have for the Black mother, that I have for any Jewish American on a college campus or anywhere, that same compassion also goes to Palestine. And that's where I think people get frustrated with some of the voices in Jewish spaces because you get policed.
Lack of empathy.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. And I think that is a problem that plagues a lot of issues. Like I think about this with like the trans issue all the time. It's like, if you really believe that these kids have some sort of like mental illness and they're like so wayward, it's like, well, then why do you treat them like shit?
Right.
Why are you so mean to them? It's like, there's this lack of empathy and it's like this sort of like giddiness at spurning like the value of life. And what I think is that is very antithetical to Judaism and Jewish practice. And it's like, and it kind of kills me when people bring up like, oh, what about the hostages? It's like, yeah, Netanyahu didn't give a fuck about the hostages from day one. It's like, he doesn't give a fuck about them now. Talk to me, basically any hostage family, they will all tell you that they don't care about them. So it's like, how can you possibly like yell at the random American online who's like, doesn't put the hostages front of mind when like the leader of the Jews doesn't? I completely am with you. And to me, it physically hurts me when I read comments from, Ben Gvir and Smotrich. It physically hurts me. And that's where I come from too, where I'm like, where I feel the same as you. It's like, even if, I'm not privy to the Israeli military secrets, but I do know that I wouldn't ignore warnings of such an attack so that I could keep myself in power, because I think that I can now use this as a weapon. If I actually cared about life, anyone's, I would try to prevent that and not, warmonger further in a land grab. And it does put the Jews in jeopardy. And it's just, I think what people want, and maybe I hope that I don't know if I can say this for all people, but I think the hardest thing for Jewish people is that there's this like lack of listening about what it actually, like why we feel quote unquote unsafe. And it's that there are so many people who do confuse or purposely confound Israel and what the Israeli government's doing as with just all Jews, as being representative of all Jews. And that is, and that us, advocating for ourselves or trying to explain is somehow like diminishing what's happening to the Palestinians, when like the place I'm always coming from is like, how would we like it if that happened to us? And I'll say, like, when I lived in Israel, I had many formative experiences on both sort of ends of the spectrum that, between Palestinians and Israelis, that made me just feel like, how would you each like it? Kind of was my feeling. And it was very eye-opening because, both advocates for both sides will sort of like fire things at each other, points at each other. And it's like, yeah, you're all right. And none of you are trying to actually come up with a solution. So yeah.
Yeah. I think I follow you. Obviously we've been on your podcast and I follow you on Instagram, and you do some really good takes on this. And I think that credible messengers are really important, especially right now. And I think like Andy Brashear and that James Tallarico, they're good talking to Christians about Christian nationalism. The atheist white lady in Oklahoma, I am not a credible messenger. The same goes for this situation. And I think, Jon Stewart spoke out recently, and it's very poignant things to say. And you, if you don't follow Sami, follow her, because she really covers this objectively. And it shows you that any sort of thinking that we have where the sentences start with, oh, the Jews, blah, 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 and you lump people together is the same thing as lumping any other group of people together. They're not a monolith. Because I think when this originally all first started happening, I was skeptical to speak out on it because I do have a lot of Jewish friends. And quite frankly, they're a lot of my very favorite people. And politically, I've always, in Oklahoma, you've got these right-wing Christian nationalists, and the Jewish people in our state have always, supported progressive causes, supported a woman's right to choose, been huge allies for the LGBTQ plus community, much more humane and empathetic people than all of the evangelicals I grew up around. We're really, truly some of the cruelest people. I mean, always told me I was going to hell, always trying to convert me. Jewish people in my lives were like, we don't even believe in hell. And I was like, oh, I like that. Well, we don't have to recruit anybody. I was like, oh, I like that. And so I think that there is a time right now where probably Jews are going to feel uncomfortable. And some of that discomfort is warranted because of when injustice is exposed, it's uncomfortable. But then there's also a safety issue where, I've seen firsthand and been in white WASP circles a lot, where I hear racist stuff, where I hear anti-Semitic stuff. I've heard it my whole life, Sami. And I could go into a country club right now and I'd hear that stuff. And so I just think you're a really good voice. And I want to amplify that there are people that are Jewish that see the same thing that everybody else sees, and connect our sense of humanity. And when we all see human suffering, Jewish people see it too. And it must be a double-edged sword, because a lot of people think, uninformed Americans or people on the global stage think you're responsible for this simply because you're Jewish. And that's just simply not the case. It is. That would be like saying I was just in Europe, that I'm responsible for alligator Alcatraz just because I'm American. And I completely disapprove of everything that MAGA does, but I am an American. There's nothing I can do about that.
Exactly. I think it's I know this because a lot of people come to me and say, thank you for speaking this way. Like, I agree with you. It's hard to articulate because there's really no, it doesn't feel good. It feels really easy to just be like, I'm super all in on this side, or I'm super all in on this side. And just to see things very like black and white and not, sort of just ignore the pieces of the argument that don't like jive with your side. And I think that it's like, I kind of am inspired to care about politics and to care about, progressive ideals by my Judaism, by the fact that, we want to heal people, we want equality, we want freedom. Like, I know that it's also a matter of like Jewish safety to live in a free society. I think a lot of people don't really necessarily understand that. And I really appreciate you seeing that. And I want to encourage more people to kind of be able to just come forward and talk in a space where you maybe don't have to like know everything or defend everything or not, or, not everything has to be this ultimate defense or criticism. Like, you can just try to share your experience. And I think the more like, there's not enough voices in this sort of middle rational space and I wish that there were, because the only Palestinians are not getting less hungry because people are fighting for them online. Like, it's just not, it hasn't happened. And I think that I just think a lot of this is really misguided.
A lot of what is misguided?
A lot of the like online fighting. Like, that's not actually.
I disagree. Helping. I think that when you see injustice, and I think a lot of.
I don't think like calling it out. I mean, like yelling at Jews, calling you like a Zio or a Zionist.
No.
What does that achieve?
I completely. Yeah. I think you have to keep your eye on the ball, and you have to keep your eye on the Israeli government. And it's the same thing that happened during the George W. Bush administration into the march in Iraq and Abu Ghraib and all of that. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for him 2 different times. I thought the whole thing, they attacked the wrong country, and there were all of us waving our arms saying, no, not in our name. No, not this, not this. And I think it's important that we find our aligned and common humanity in this. And I want to leave you and our listener with this. So Oklahoma, very homogenous state live in. I did have, because I am a Democrat, end up at these political fundraisers. I met some fabulous Jewish people that were politically aligned with me. But probably about 6 months ago, I was playing tennis with a girl that I play tennis with some, and she kind of has really pretty like Mediterranean skin, dark hair. And I said, where's your background? Like, where are you from? And she said, oh, I'm Palestinian. And I just grabbed her hand, because you don't meet many Palestinians in Oklahoma. And I grabbed her hand and I said, I am so sorry about what's happening in your country. And she started sobbing. And she said, you're the only person in this entire city that has acknowledged to me that this would be painful. And I can't thank you enough for showing me compassion. And because she has family over there, and, her childhood memories of you going to Israel, she has memories of going to Palestine. And so,
people underestimate how much of a like personal familial tie there are between Palestinians here and in Palestine and Jews here and in Israel. I think it's like not understood. But to what you're saying, like, think about how much more that does for someone or anyone than all the yelling at Jews online could never do. And I think if people center their efforts around compassion, around understanding, that will, my feeling is that like that will be effective. Although unfortunately I've come to feel that like there's nothing that I can personally do, which is very, very painful and truly like miserable, honestly.
Sami, we have to go soon, but I do think you speaking and I think, again, back to the credible messenger, it is the best thing that you can do for Jewish people to help promote Jewish safety is to say, look, I am a Jewish person. I oppose what this government is doing. It's simple. We can get into history and all of those things. But for me, when I heard Jon Stewart, when I heard the guy from Homeland, I can't remember his name, but I just know him as
Lincoln.
Yes, him.
Saul.
And Saul. When I hear that, I'm immediately reminded this is exactly how I feel about alligator Alcatraz. I oppose it. Every ounce of my DNA opposes it. So I think the best thing that you can do is come on to spaces like this. We have obviously a very progressive listenership that you have 100% in common with: compassion, empathy, human rights, social justice, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, Jewish safety, Palestinian safety. And I think it's so important. And it was why I really, really wanted to have a longer episode and have you on to remind people that there are many, many victims of fascist governments. And even the people that fascist governments say they're trying to keep safe are often victims of those governments. And so I can't thank you enough for coming on. I think it's uncomfortable, but I think we all have to talk about this because it is really captivating American politics right now. And it's just wrong what we're seeing.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for having me. I'm happy to, try to elucidate to the extent I can. And, I hope I didn't say anything that, comes across misunderstood or, offended anyone. I'm happy to talk about it and hear feedback, because I feel like the only way that you're going to come to a broader understanding.
I agree. I completely agree. And I think that's what these spaces are made for, podcasting.
I agree.
They're made to have these types of conversations where we learn about each other from each other.
I agree.
Sami, we love you.
Mwah.
Mwah. All right. Have a great day. And thanks so much for coming on, and we'll text you next time we're in New York. I think that's a really brave thing that she's doing. I think it's just incredibly brave, because it would be that it's such a powder keg, this whole issue right now. And, you would just kind of want to stick your, just like, I just want to stay out of public. Everybody's so riled up about this. And there are many, many progressive Jews that oppose, with everything in them, all of this bullshit and war crimes and genocide that Benjamin Netanyahu's doing. And it would be a very uncomfortable space to be sitting in. So I think her messaging is so important.
I think it's so important. And she leads with empathy for everybody. And I think that's what we're missing in the United States and in Israel. And I think it is so important to make the distinction between the government of Israel and the people. And they're different, they're just as radicalized over there as we are here. And the lack of empathy here, and the difference between a Christian nationalist and being rah-rah for alligator Alcatraz and then being a liberal person. I mean, it all boils down to empathy when I see it. Like, these corrupt governments, they're all about money and oligarchy, lack of empathy across the board.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Thanks for tuning in for our long, extended podcast today. Pumps, tell them.
We will see you next Tuesday and Thursday.
Listen up, patriots, gaytriots, and natriots. We have a new podcast that has dropped. It's called iHip News. It's Monday through Friday, every day, 15 to 20-minute hot takes on the political landscape of the United States of America, always served with a side of petty grievances.
We are on all the available platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever you get your podcasts, and YouTube.
Please go rate, subscribe, and review so that we will chart upwards with America's greatest legal mind. Pumps, what does an eagle say?
Caw-caw!
A little bit more enthusiasm.
Caw-caw!
That's it. That's
caw-caw!
That's the patriotism that this country needs right there.